Today we've got old school luxury in this 2020 Lexus GX. I'm gonna give you a full detailed review, show you all the details in the specs, the cargo, the inside, and go for a test drive coming right up. Now as we take a look at the exterior of the GX, it continues to be a big, burly luxury vehicle. There's the base GX, the premium, and then the luxury, which is what we have right here. This GX 460 luxury has the sport design package, and you will definitely see some differences here on the front. So starting out right away on the front, new for this year, we have the standard triple beam LED headlights. You've seen triple beam headlights on some other Lexus models, and you've got that really distinct signature L-themed checkmark daytime running light right there, which is really bold, really vibrant at night as well. And then as we come across the grille, you'll see this interesting pattern. So we've got a different surround here with the sport design package, even that little lip spoiler down there on the bottom as well. And then you can kind of see the differences of the fascia. Definitely a bigger, bolder design on this 2020 model. The hood is still not super muscular, but you do have a couple of distinct lines up there. You even have headlamp washers right there, and that's, you know, only on the luxury vehicle. And then you've got an incandescent blinker, but you have LED fog lights down below on the premium model. And at night, these headlights do a nice job. These triple beams do better than they did on that Lexus RX that I had recently. So that's nice to see, and the high beams really do well on here. They're not super narrow, they're actually pretty wide. This color is called Atomic Silver, and there are some new colors for this GX for this year. This color is really interesting. So in some lights, it looks almost a little bit tan, sometimes a little bit silver, but really it's a very premium looking paint. It's just very slick. It looks nice at night with the LED lights coming off of here as well. Just a really nice looking paint overall. Our GX is going to give us the sport design wheels. So these are the 19-inch wheels. It's got a dark gray metallic finish, and it's just a really slick wheel. I think it looks good with the outside of this vehicle. Matches the paint and some of the other exterior features pretty well. Now the side profile is definitely big, SUV boxy. It definitely says capable just by looking at it. Those running boards are standard down there, and I'm not a big fan of that. You get rid of those and put some rock sliders. Now we're talking. Another feature with the sport design package is the chrome detail on the mirror. And of course, you're going to get LED turn signals in here. We also have blind spot monitoring standard. And then we also even get auto dimming on both sides, and those mirrors can power fold. Then you see some of the chrome trim running around the windows there. Same with those door handles. And then as we get to the back, you can really see how big this vehicle is. Just a big, tall, boxy rear end. Now this GX has the kinetic dynamic suspension system, the KDSS, which originated on the GX 470. It's fully mechanical. It disengages the stabilizer bars to allow for better wheel travel. Definitely helpful off-road. Plus we have the adaptive variable suspension on this luxury trim. So it electronically controls the dampers to adjust to road surfaces. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. Plus you have normal, sport, and comfort modes. And to top that off, the rear end on our luxury trim has the auto leveling rear air suspension. And we'll kind of go through that. Plus you've got 8.1 inches of ground clearance, and I would really have liked to have seen more ground clearance considering this is an off-road capable body on frame vehicle. Now as we come to the back, I'll show you that flip up window in a second, but you've got a high mounted light up above. We've still got the incandescent turn signals back here. I'd like to see that revised, but we've got these scarlet tail lamps on the sport design package as well. And then you've even got a little bit of a distinct lip spoiler just like the front with the sport design package, and even a matte black exhaust with the sport design package as well. So a very tall, very similar rear end to the previous models. Overall, just a big vehicle. Now the cargo area for the Lexus is kind of cool because one, you've got this lift glass, and when it's locked, you can't lift it. If you have the key fob, you can unlock it using the little cargo area, and that'll open this up. Otherwise, you can push that button, and there you go. And it's nice to see that. You don't really see that anymore, but then you can easily put some stuff in here without having to open up the gate. Now, opening the gate is a different story. It is not a power gate, it's a side opening gate, and I didn't unlock it, but there's an unlock button right there. And then it opens up like this, which is really unconventional, kind of old school, and some of you might prefer it to open up the other way so you can load from the curb. It just depends. But back here, behind the third row, you're gonna get 11.6 cubic feet, which is tiny, and then 46.7 with the second row or the third row down, and then 64.7 cubic feet maximum when you fold all the seats down, which is nowhere near as much as you would think there would be in a vehicle this big. But that's what you get with the live axle in the back, the body on frame, and the tire underneath. There is a spare tire underneath of here, and it even has tire pressure monitoring as well. Now, I'm definitely disappointed in the cargo area because it's just not very big. And when I've had my stroller back here, I have to lay it down so it doesn't move too much. It almost takes up the entire area when the cargo cover is in place. Now, looking at our door, we have our jack kit in one of those pouches right there. And then we have this tiny little area behind the third row. So pretty much useless if you're gonna actually have that third row up. But you do have a house plug, 120 volt power outlet. And then our trim gives us these power folding seats on this top trim. So you actually have to hold it down in order for them to go down. You can't just press it and then they go, and it is pretty slow. Now, most of the time you'll probably have it like this, and then you'll have a little bit more cargo space. Pretty good cargo space, but just not as good as you would expect for this size vehicle. Right up above, you've got lights for your third row or for your cargo. And then as you can see, you've got multiple tie downs. You got 1, 2, and then 2 more on the other side, plus a couple little hooks for some groceries or whatever you might want. And even though this is the top trim luxury vehicle, you still have to go to the second row in order to fold that seat down. And then there is a cargo cover that runs across. I just have it removed right now because you can't move the third row if you have that in there. One thing to keep in mind is that you have a really large back bumper, which is kind of nice you could sit on, but it also gets in the way of loading up there. So if you actually have the manual folding third row seats, which I would prefer, you do have to kind of lean forward quite a bit in order to pull them back up. Now, every GX gets the smart key system with this typical Lexus key fob. It does feel pretty nice, and it's compact as well. That'll give you push button start, and we have remote start on ours. If you push and hold the lock 3 different times, we can lock it by pressing on that little line. Otherwise, you've got the sensor behind the door and you're good to go. And for whatever reason, it never works in the video, but it always works in real life. Now, one thing I don't like is that standard are these running boards, but the nice thing is that they're actually illuminated on the running board and below the running board at night. So it's really nice, welcome, kind of a premium lighting experience. Now, ingress and egress in the 460 really isn't that bad. One, it's not that tall, and you've got a grab handle on both driver and passenger side. Another plus is that you've got the entry-exit system, so you've got the automatic moving steering wheel and seat. Not only is this a power tilt and telescoping steering wheel, it's also heated. Now, on the base GX and the premium GX, you're gonna get new Lux seats, which is a synthetic material from Lexus. It does feel pretty nice, it looks pretty nice, and it honestly doesn't get as hot or as cold as real leather does. You'll have 10-way power seats across the board with 2-way lumbar support. My only complaint is that we should honestly have 4-way lumbar at least available in the top seat, or a thigh cushion extension, but you don't get it. It's just 10-way with 2-way lumbar. Now, our trim, this luxury model, we get this semi-aniline leather, which is really nice. It looks nice, it feels nice. We've even got this red leather, which is pretty bold in a vehicle like this, but I think it looks pretty nice in here. It doesn't necessarily fit the market that this vehicle goes with, but overall, these are nice seats. They've got decent bolstering around them. They're pretty soft as well. I sat in here for a couple hours and didn't have any trouble. Another thing is that there's a ton of room. I don't have the seat all the way down, but at 5'9", I've still got a decent amount of room above my head, and you can raise the seat up pretty high, so you can have a pretty high riding position as well. And to top it off, these seats have 2-position memory standard, and then our top trim, the luxury and the premium, will give you the heating and the ventilation. Now, taking a look at the interior of the 2020 Lexus GX, it is comfortable and functional, although it looks outdated regardless of its refresh. You'll still find some similar Lexus design and materials to still help you feel like you're in a nice, comfortable luxury vehicle. Now, taking a look at the door, you can see the wood trim running across right here. You do have a softer material up above, although not super padded. Got this trim running down through here with this big, large door handle. Really nice, soft, padded red leather armrest. You've got a separate storage cubby, and you've got a couple bottle holders right there. My large bottle fits just fine. Memory settings and all automatic up-down windows. To the left of the steering wheel, we have our mirror controls, interior lighting controls, panoramic monitor, and trip odometer controls. Then you got your headlamp washers, traction control, automatic high beams, and heated steering wheel button. Now, as we take a look right in front of us, we've got this heated leather steering wheel with wood trim. Now, I believe the bottom trim is or the lower trims get an all leather wheel. I'm not positive on that. I would rather have it because this leather right here actually does feel pretty nice. You've got some stitching. You've got an updated steering wheel design with some functional buttons on the left for your radio controls and your voice controls. And then over here, you've got controls for your information display right up above. You've still got your stock for the cruise control, which is perfectly fine. It works well. On this windshield wiper stock, we have rain sensing wipers. One thing right up in front of us are gauges. We have a couple big physical gauges with a silver ring around them, which looks pretty nice and fairly premium. They're easy to read. But right in the middle, you have an information display that is just out of date. It just, with a lot of other things in this vehicle, it just looks like it's from last generation, last decade. But it works fine. It gives you all the necessary information that you need. And, you know, honestly, if you don't want a big digital gauge, this will be perfect for you anyways. Now, as we get to the middle, we get a smaller screen than you'll see in most Lexuses. Of course, some of the modern ones we see the tablet style. I like how this is integrated, but it is so outdated. There's no Apple CarPlay or no Android Auto. The navigation is just unacceptable. It works okay, but I never use an in-car navigation system with all the construction that goes on around here. It just does not work. There are some setup options that you have to where you can control things, but this just is not up to date whatsoever. I mean, this looks like it is just so old and just is unacceptable for a 2020 model vehicle. On the plus side, the audio system does sound good. We have the optional 17-speaker Mark Levinson system. It always sounds nice in these Lexus vehicles, although it is only 330 watts. One nice feature with our off-road package is this panoramic view monitor. So as you can see right there, you got dynamic lines to where you're backing up, to where the front of the vehicle is going to go, to where you're backing up. You can change the views here as well. And when I go ahead and put it in drive, I can hit the camera button. I can have it automatically come up or not. And as you can see, you can still kind of see that section right there, but you can see in front of you when I'm in drive. Change the views, you can see next to the vehicle. So all of this all together is just really helpful if you're going to go off-road or even just parking in a parking lot. Right below the screen, we have some of our climate controls, and you'll get dual or tri-zone, depending on if you have it in the back, but dual zone up front on every model. You even have this disc player right here, which is rather unusual, but you have the entertainment system behind you. You've got physical knobs for your radio down below as well. And you can even do some climate control up on your main screen up here. Now below that, we have our heated and ventilated seat functions with that little dial. You've got a little storage bin right there, as well as a couple USB ports and an auxiliary port, which is nice to see, plus a 12-volt power outlet. Pretty traditional shifter right here with the leather boot. Now this first button, you can actually adjust the height. So I'm gonna go ahead and push that down, and you'll see it adjust right there. It is currently lowering us right now. You also have a drive mode, so you've got comfort and then normal, and then you can go all the way up to sport. And then we have our off-road package, which is only available on the luxury trim for about $15-70. So on the left, we have multi-terrain select and our crawl control settings. So right there, now I'm gonna scroll through with that little toggle. You gotta have it in 4 low in order to do this. And then you can see all these different modes that you have right here. And then we've got crawl control. You do have to be in 4 low in order to be in here, and you use the same toggle to determine which speed you want, which is basically an off-road cruise control, and the vehicle will pick the speed and you just steer. Now right behind those controls, we have a couple fairly large bottle holders that accommodate smaller and larger drinks. And then one really cool thing about in here is that each passenger can slide their armrest forward or backwards independently. You can't lift one up or the other, you have to lift both, but it's still kind of a cool concept. Got a coin holder, a soft bin. The bin can also be removable, and there's not much going on in here. There's no ports or anything like that. Lexus gives you a locking glove box as well, which is always nice. Up above, we get garage controls and an automatic dimming rearview mirror. You've got a regular sunglass holder. You've got incandescent lights, which is kind of surprising in a vehicle of this price. And then we've just got one regular moonroof right here, no panoramic roof option. Now, before I talk about the second row, I've got to complain about one thing. So I have a baby in a rear-facing car seat, and most time we have baby in the middle, but we have captain's chairs here. So I had the baby over here so my wife could sit here and we could still, kind of talk a little bit. I could not sit where I wanted to sit at 5'9" with the rear facing car seat. It was pushing up against this, and that's just unacceptable in a vehicle this big. Aside from that, these are nice. The base GX is going to give you the 40-20-40 split bench seat back here. Otherwise, we've got the captain's chairs right here. They each have their own little armrest, and you have little cup holder built in next to the seat. The seats themselves are pretty comfortable. They can also recline, and they can even slide forward and backwards in pretty decent ways. And there's not quite as much room as I would expect in this vehicle, but I've still got pretty good knee space, and when I'm sitting up tall, I've still got good head space. So they do a pretty good job overall. I just wish there was a little more space, a little more stretch right here. We've also got AC controls right in front of us. The air vents are actually right up above, which I like because it just goes right to you. You don't have to have it bypass past your legs or anything. There's also 2 fast charging USB ports down in front of us. And the premium and luxury will give you heated outboard seats as well. Our model has the almost $2,000 option for this entertainment system, when you can get a cheaper iPad setup or tablet setup on each side, but still, at least you have that option if you want it. Now let's hop into the third row. In order to do that, you can just pull that handle and the seat will kind of just automatically fall forward, but you still have a pretty small opening to get back there. It was honestly kind of tough for me to squeeze my butt through that space. Then if I pull this back, it's not all the way back like this one, but I still actually have a little bit of knee space, as you can see, which is fantastic, even though my legs are pretty high up off of the floor. And now that you're back here, you do get your own air vents, you get your own grab handle, you get almost like a high bottom cup holder over here, and then you get a real cup holder over there. And you do get actual seat movement controls on both sides, which is nice if you want to fold them down from the second row. And regardless of how you have this, this is just a 2-seater back here. And when I'm sitting up tall, I can't actually sit up tall because my head does push into the top of the ceiling, but children should be able to sit back here and be okay. And the nice thing is you can split fold these so you can have one down and still be able to have someone back here but have a little more cargo space. Now under the hood of this 2020 Lexus GX, nothing really changes, and to me that's a good thing for the most part, but there are definitely some negatives with this as well. So my favorite thing is that this is multi-port injected instead of the modern direct injection that you see in so many vehicles nowadays. And this is a proven engine. They've been using it just like that 470 model was as well. You can go a long time on these engines. So this is a 4.6 liter V8. It puts out numbers that aren't quite as good as I would expect, but 301 horsepower and 329 pound-feet of torque. And that torque is important because it comes out pretty early at 3,500 RPM with premium fuel. Now every model also comes with a 6-speed automatic. Some of you might wish that it came with something better, like an 8-speed or 9-speed or 10-speed like they have in the LS, but this fits this engine really well. It's just a smooth operating vehicle, although fuel economy suffers at 15 city, 19 highway, and 16 combined. This vehicle is pretty much adventure ready because you can tow 6,500 pounds and it has trailer sway control built in as well. Not to mention the fact that this is actually a full-time 4-wheel drive system with a low range as well. So it's got some off-road chops. It's got a Torsen limited slip differential as well that can be locked. All right, everyone, we are in the GX on a test drive, and as you can see, the visibility in here is not great, but it's still not that bad for an SUV, better than some crossovers. Now my first impression with the GX is that it definitely feels like a big vehicle. It does have a pretty high ride height, even though it's really not that hard to get in and out of here. The steering feel is kind of a medium. I mean, it is fairly light for a vehicle of this size, so it does help to make it into some space. There's a good amount of play in the steering wheel. That's one thing. There's a lot of play in the steering wheel, so it's a comfortable drive, but just no feedback. It's a little unassuring going around some corners. Now we're in comfort mode. Let me get pedal down. And that V8 sounds pretty nice. You do get some V8 sound coming in through here. Otherwise, you really don't get a whole lot. And right here, you can see just how much the steering wheel is turned on a small curve, so there's a lot of play in the steering wheel, which is one complaint. I wish it was a little bit more dialed in. It would honestly be a little more relaxing if it was a little bit more responsive, but that's not really what this vehicle's about. This is a smooth riding, for the most part, big luxury vehicle. Now, one thing about it though is once you get on some broken pavement, that live axle, the solid axle back there, does get a little hoppy. It can be pretty abrupt and kind of beat you up a little bit in some scenarios. Now let's go ahead and get on it again, pedal down. Woo! There was no delay at all with that. And I talk about that 6-speed transmission being a good pairing with this because it's responsive, it's quick, it never misses a shift. There was one time when I was going up a pretty steep hill to where this did have to downshift a decent amount, you know, a little underpowered, but otherwise, it's just a smooth, solid sounding V8. And for most daily driving, it's perfectly fine. That torque comes out pretty early as well. Now I'm gonna get on the brakes here a little bit. The brakes are a little soft, and when you're at high speeds and you got to get on the brakes, it's a little bit uncomfortable. Now I just moved this into sport mode. And there's quite a bit of space in between those shifts with the 6-speed. And even though it's in sport mode, it's not really holding the RPMs up. But I love the sound of that V8. It's not a big burly V8 necessarily, but it's a V8. Now, handling, I really got to crank on the steering wheel, and there's just no feedback going around here. When there's some wind, you do get kind of tossed around a little bit, even though this is big and heavy, but just like to see this short up a little bit. But overall, it's quiet, it's smooth, there's not much to complain about with it. This actually had better decibel ratings than that Lexus RX 350 that I was in, so that's saying something. Even though we don't actually have laminated side glass, which would be nice to see, something that I kind of expected. Now I'm going to kind of get on it a little bit again. Passing power is pretty good because it is quick to shift, it's responsive, and if you really put it down, it'll drop that gear and give you the torque and the power that you need. One thing that I've appreciated with this at night, if you've seen some of my night reviews, I love a good beam line with the headlights, and these do pretty good. The driver's side drops down a little bit like it's supposed to, and overall it's just an easy to drive vehicle at night, which is helpful. These triple beam LED headlights do better than that Lexus RX as well. And for the most part, it's a really easy vehicle to live with. It is kind of burdensome to park this thing because of the just because of its dimensions. Its steering, its turning radius is not very good. Now I'm about to get on a rougher textured road where there's some road noise in most vehicles, and you don't get a lot of that in the GX. There is some, but it's really not bad. I could carry on conversations in here, no problems, with my wife in the back seat too, so that's really nice. Now when you are up to a higher speed, and I take this corner at the same speed on every vehicle, ooh, and this one definitely does still have some body lane. It does have an adaptive variable suspension, so I'm sure that that does help us in some scenarios, but for the most part, not a vehicle you want to hustle. And getting on the brakes right there, they did just fine. They're soft. You definitely feel the weight of the vehicle though. Now one of the big things that separates the GX from crossovers is its off-road capability. And we have the off-road package, which is only available on the luxury model. They're all full-time four-wheel drive though, which is a big plus. My complaint though is that it doesn't have very good ground clearance. I'd like to see that improved somewhat, but it's still a pretty big capable luxury off-roader. And I've seen people use the 470s and some older ones for some overlanding, which is pretty cool. And if you want to see some more GX off-road videos, be sure to check out TFL Truck. I know that they do have some of those. And for the most part, I don't have anywhere that I can go legally and actually go off-road anywhere close to me. So I did travel to an off-road park with the 4Runner one time if you want to see that, but I took this on some gravel earlier. This is pretty soft, but shoot, flying across some gravel, it is really smooth. And of course it's smooth on here too. There is some bumps, but now one nice thing is the panoramic monitor. It does come with the off-road package, but it also works well. And you can see the parking sensors, but it also works well in just regular parking scenarios. It's just a capable vehicle regardless of the terrain that you're on, and a pro to the live axle is the off-road capability, the towing, and you do have the KDSS system, which can disengage the stabilizer bar to actually give you more wheel travel. I wouldn't do anything too crazy with this. If you put some bigger tires and maybe some rock sliders, you'd probably be pretty good. So in conclusion, with this 2020 Lexus GX, it's nowhere near as modern as other luxury vehicles in terms of some of the things that it offers, but this is a low maintenance, no bull type of luxury SUV. It's an SUV that's actually capable. It can go off-road, it can haul people around, it's got a reliable engine. Even though it was just refreshed, it's still outdated in a lot of aspects, but I can appreciate what this has to offer. Leave your comments down below and let me know what you think. Thank you so much for watching, and be sure to watch some of these other videos. I truly appreciate your support. Subscribe for more weekly videos. Have a great rest of your day.